Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to this session 6 of the Virtual Learning Exchange for CTI-CFR under the European Union Ocean Governance Project. So this session is devoted to the topic of restoration of marine and coastal habitats in marine protected areas. So as you can see, we have a very tough agenda today. It has been great to receive a lot of proposals of people that want to share their experiences on this really, really relevant topic. So I will not talk a lot because I prefer that you listen at our interesting speakers. So we have distributed the speeches into different sets. We have 2 introductory speeches that we think you will really appreciate, that are general and of great interest for everybody. The first one is about the manager guide to coral restoration that is prepared by the Nature Conservancy. And we will have a first presentation on that. And the second introductory speech is about mangrove restoration and blue carbon, and then the NOAA International Blue Carbon Project. So this is also very relevant, especially considering that those days we are having the COP26 of climate change, and linking all conservation and restoration work with the climate issues is really important for MPAs. And then we have, I will be presenting when we arrive at this moment, we have a set of very interesting practical experiences and projects, as well as some interesting research on the domain of restoration. So I really want to thank all of your proposals. Just remind now that the first 2 introductory speeches have maximum 10 minutes, and all the examples and experiences and the scientific research have 5 minutes each. So we will be controlling strictly the time, because we really want to have also the participants as listening today having the possibility to make questions and contribute to this interesting debate. So with this, I'm inviting to the first presentation, which is the Manager's Guide to Coral Restoration, and will be done by Christine Mays. She's the Reef Resilience Network Manager at the Nature Conservancy. So, Christine, the floor is yours. Thanks.
Let me just bring my slides up. Hello, everyone. Give me one moment. Okay. Hi, everyone. Wonderful to be here. I'm really happy and excited to be able to speak with you all and share a little bit about some of the resources the Reef Resilience Network has created for coral reef managers working to restore coral reefs around the world. I'm Kristen Mays, as Really said. I'm manager for the Reef Resilience Network. And oops, there we go. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Reef Resilience Network, we are a community of practice for marine managers, practitioners, and experts, with the goal of really increasing effective management of coral reefs around the world. We're a partnership effort spearheaded by the Nature Conservancy in collaboration with NOAA's Coral Conservation Program and many other partners. We have about 2,700 active members and hundreds of global experts who participate in the network. And as you can see on the slide, together we really work to synthesize and share the latest science and management strategies. We provide training and support for managers to really be able to apply what they learn into their management programs. And then we work to connect managers with their peers and with experts to be able to exchange and share knowledge and information. In the past 5 years, we've really heard a lot from our managers in the network about a need and interest in reef restoration. And so this led us to develop a number of resources that I'm going to share with you now. In particular, the Manager's Guide, and it's a planning process guide that I will dive into. But first, just to share about the network. This is our online toolkit, reefresilience.org. And here we have really synthesized information on a variety of topics relevant to reef managers. Here are a few of the topics that we have. If you click on the restoration link up there, it'll take you to our restoration toolkit. And here is where we really have an overview of reef restoration. There is background context. You can follow along the menu right there, but information on project planning, methods for restoring coral populations and physical reef substrate, rapid response and emergency restoration, and then some broader landscape level restoration considerations. And this toolkit was developed with a host of experts across many organizations. Their logos are shown here. On our online trainings page, you'll find a link to our restoration course. You can see there, it's circled. And there are 5 other courses. These are all free and open to you at any time. In the restoration course, there are 6 online lessons, and it's really modeled after the toolkit that I just shared. There's interactive activities, videos, and self-assessments. And the last online resource I'll share is this is our webinar database. And here, these are webinar recordings all related to restoration. It's an easily searchable database. If you search restoration on the top, all of the restoration webinars are there for you on a variety of restoration topics. We have similar databases for a case study database highlighting successful management strategies, and one also for summaries of journal articles. And so for both of those databases, you can search restoration and easily find the resources that we have available for you. So as I said before, when we were in the process of developing restoration resources, one of the biggest things we noted is that there was a gap in planning resources for managers. So last year in 2020, we published a manager's guide to coral reef restoration planning and design with NOAA's Coral Reef Conservation Program, U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and a slew of other partners that you can see there. The guide is structured around a 6-step process that really takes into consideration climate change adaptation. It's meant to be flexible, meaning it could be used for managers who are already in restoration projects and managers who are totally new to restoration. And the focus with this guide is that it's really goal-based planning. So when you complete the first 4 steps of the guide that are shown here in blue, the end result, or really what you get, the product, is a restoration action plan. And the guide also includes, just to give you a rundown of what's in it, some background information, resources. Of course, there's a suggested process for restoration planning, how to work with small teams. And this includes some considerations or guidelines for stakeholder engagement. And there's a case study that runs throughout the whole guide, so you can just see what the guide is like in terms of application and process. I'm going to just show you the 4 main steps that you can use to get the action plan. The first is for managers to develop restoration goals and identify a broad geographic area to focus restoration efforts based on those goals. And in this step, we provide example goals to work from based on recent published resources and really guide the users to craft SMART goals that include greater specifics and that are measurable. In step 2, guide users really work to identify, prioritize, and select sites where restoration will occur in order to meet the goal that you identified in step 1. And I think I have a picture here. Yeah. So this step provides a framework for how sites, specific sites, can be evaluated, compared, and prioritized. And in the guide, there's also an Excel-based tutorial and an example to illustrate this process. So it really is quite hands-on. Step 3 helps users design and select restoration interventions based on their goal. So it provides a process for brainstorming options, applying climate smart design considerations, and then selecting a final set of interventions based on 5 suggested criteria that you can see. It's pretty small up there in the guide, plenty of information about it. But that's really the process that we're using to select. And then the last step that I'll talk about is just really focusing on objectives. So this is defining objectives, activities, and timelines, and then putting everything together into the restoration plan. And in this step, we provide examples of objectives. I mean, in all the steps, there are examples, but the idea here is to create kind of smaller bite-sized chunks that help you work towards your goal and that are measurable. There are two tools that we developed to complement the guide. So the first is the workbook that you can see here. And this provides a place where you can document important information and decisions made along the process. And this could be used as a reference document for your restoration action plan and be revisited in the future if you want to make a new plan or revise it. And then the second that I mentioned is the action plan template. And this provides the layout that you can use to build your action plan. It's designed to be populated directly from the workbook, so you can put in as much information as is relevant or needed. And both the action plan template and the workbook are both downloadable Word docs, so you can work on them separately. And of course, the guide is only useful if it's being used and applied in the real world. So just want to share a couple quick examples of where we've supported managers to use the guide. So we've recently worked with the Nature Conservancy Africa program in Kenya and Tanzania to support local communities to develop restoration plans. Over the past year and a half, we've been working with managers from American Samoa, Commonwealth of Northern Marianas Islands, Guam, and Hawaii to support them in developing jurisdiction-wide plans. Those are almost complete. And then the guide is now being used to support planning in the US and Florida and the US Virgin Islands, and hopefully potentially in Indonesia in the near future. And so to access the guide, you can go to reefresilience.org. It's on our planning page, or you can get it directly off the NOAA Chorus website. The link is right there. Just want to mention that in early 2020, we will be offering a mentored reef restoration online course where participants have access to restoration experts as they take the online course. So if you sign up for our newsletter on reefresilience.org, you can get announcements as this opportunity becomes available, and enroll your staff or your team for free. So please join us. And that's it. Sorry, I'm rushing through. Hopefully time for questions later, but thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Christine. It was perfect, sharp, even a few seconds less than your 10 minutes. So thank you very much.
I tried, Kiri.
We really appreciate it. And very interesting. So our next speaker is another introductory speech about the mangrove restoration and the blue carbon and the NOAA International Blue Carbon Project. And the speaker is Steve Crooks from the Silverstone Climate Associates. So Steve, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody, from the COP in Glasgow. And I'm a wetlands restoration practitioner, but I'll be working in blue carbon, and I'm going to tell you more about the carbon aspects right now. And I'm going to lead up to a program that the US government are leading called a Transparency Accelerator, which is to help countries include restoration of coastal ecosystems and conservation within greenhouse gas inventories, because greenhouse gas inventories provide the mechanism for tracking how you're doing with greenhouse gas emissions reductions. And for coastal ecosystems, it allows us then to recognize progress within NDCs. And if coastal ecosystem restoration and conservation is within an NDC, then it provides the signal for financing and helping with marine protected area development and other related activities. Are you seeing the presentation mode right now?
Yes, but not the full screen. If you can.
Not the full screen,
mode,
that's what you need. Sorry. People on it. There we go. So many ecosystem benefits of mangroves, of course. But really, carbon is a currency that underpins most of the ecosystem services that they provide. It provides, the food that flows through the ecosystem to support fisheries from the atmosphere, plants flowing out into the environment. It removes CO2 from water and helps with remediation of ocean acidification at a local scale. It provides the structure of plants, soils for nursery grounds, and it helps wetlands build with sea level rise. And just as an example, these happen to be fish from a salt marsh system in California, but these fish are the same age, and they were grown for 3 weeks in a channel. The ones on the left, in a channel with no wetlands and carbon flowing through it, and the ones on the right, a channel with a wetland ecosystem around it. And you can see, the way that the food supply, because of the wetland, leads to more productive fisheries. Just as one example. Now, mangrove ecosystems, even when you think of very tall mangroves that you might find in Indonesia or close to the equator, most of the carbon is in the soils. And so when we think about managing these ecosystems, not only thinking about managing the above ground biomass, tall trees, but we're also thinking about how do we manage the soils. So we have to think about how to include science to recognize that, but also think about when we do track the emissions and removals, we recognize what's happening. And this graphic from the Dominican Republic illustrates this. It has soils collected from various samples, and even within tall, medium, or dwarf mangroves here in the Dominican Republic, if they're converted to a shrimp pond, you can lose soil down more than a meter below the pond itself. And so you can release maybe something of the order of 3,000 tons of CO2 per hectare back to the atmosphere. And when you start to scale that up, that gets to a very big number. And so, one of the things that we've been working on in terms of greenhouse gases and coastal ecosystems has been first to try and reduce the rates of losses which have been taking place around the world, and now to try and encourage restoration. And in fact, when we first wrote the first paper summarizing global emissions, we estimated total emissions from all blue carbon ecosystems at around about 500 million tons per year. The rates of losses through the late last century up to around about 2010 were pretty high. And we've been pleased to see that there's been a reduction in the rates of losses over the last 10 years when we look at these data sets, in part because of increasing awareness of the importance of these coastal ecosystems. Mangroves are the easiest to track. Seagrasses, we have very little data on tracking. Marshes, we have less data, but more than seagrasses. But we are starting to see restoration activities start to appear. We happen to be involved helping a project in Pakistan get carbon financing for planting 220,000 hectares of mangroves. Here is the image of where these mangroves are being planted, and an example of plantations that have already happened. In Colombia, we're seeing restoration projects taking place. Vietnam, within their NDCs, they've projected restoring 300,000 hectares. Indonesia has grand plans for restoration of mangroves. Of course, the challenge will be where to put those mangroves, given that there are so many people and shrimp ponds, etc., in the landscape. And of course, the best place to put mangroves is where they were before. Otherwise, the level of success is very low. So to connect to NDCs, to connect to greenhouse gas inventories, the IPCC a few years ago brought out guidance on the procedures. So just as countries include forests and croplands, grasslands within their national greenhouse gas inventory under the land use sector, there's the opportunity also to include coastal wetlands. A number of countries are already doing this. The US, Australia, Costa Rica is advancing, and others. But by 2024, all countries, if it's an important sink or source of emissions, should be including coastal wetlands within their capacity. To help with this, the State Department of the US have funded EPA and NOAA to help partner countries undertake this task. EPA has a broader remit here to help countries improve their agriculture, forestry, and other land use sectors of their greenhouse gas inventory. Very broadly, if there's assistance needed in terms of building databases, thinking about land representation, the EPA has a program to help with this. On the north side, we are thinking about the coastal wetlands, particularly, mostly the mangroves, and looking to help countries think about how to include mangroves within their greenhouse gas inventory. And also more broadly, how do we connect to things like improving science? How do we connect to management of marine protected areas? How do we connect now that you've done it, part of including in the inventory, what next? Where does the management go? Then here are the tasks. I'll not go into detail about them, but it's basically certain levels of capacity building, helping a country build a science, address key gaps, look at data collection, though we don't have a large data, we'd have to partner with others to the data collection to take place. And then the building of the inventory part of that. And unfortunately, we don't cover all countries. The State Department's programs have certain geographies. So we're mostly working within these geographies here. We're moving forward most quickly. It's a 3 to 4 year program. We're in our first year. We're moving forward with Costa Rica and Fiji, and discussions have started with India and with Vietnam. And we're looking for 1 or 2 more partners to work with. But what we're also thinking about doing is including outreach programs. So if we're working, for instance, in Costa Rica, pulling together a regional workshop with other countries to compare notes on progress that we've had in the US and have also had in Costa Rica, and then exchange information within that region. And as we go to different parts of the world, we'll be doing the same sort of process. So Fiji, a South Pacific focus, etc. And the kinds of questions that we get from various partners, this data was collected by the SWAMP program at C4. When we look at different countries, they come with questions. Well, how do you include blue carbon ecosystems within a greenhouse gas inventory? What do you do if you don't have data? What can we do to improve data? How do we build awareness both within our government but within other stakeholders? How do we link to NDCs? And how do we link to financing? And an important question that comes up for a number of countries which are involved in RED programs is, well, what do we do if we include things like biomass, mangrove biomass, within the RED program, but we don't include soils, or we don't include all mangroves because some mangroves are too short. And so we're helping think through questions like that. And actually at the COP later today, a project led by the Australians, which we're involved in, answers a lot of these questions. And so you can download this from 9 p.m. this morning, Glasgow time, a document and a set of worksheets guiding on coastal wetlands in national greenhouse gas inventories. And that's available.
If you have 30 seconds.
And I think this is a good place to stop. So that's right there.
That's great. Thank you very much as well for the sharp time and the very interesting approach. I think that everybody really will take advantage of having this detailed information of connecting with climate change issues and the restoration of mangroves. Thank you very much. So hopefully there will be questions at the end. And now let's move to the practical experiences and scientific research. So a number of our presentations are not in English today. So just to remind you that you have a button down with a globe that says interpretation. So you can choose your preferred language there. And there is also the possibility to stop the original version to avoid duplication of sound. So please remember this in case you have some problems. So our first example is strengthening coral restoration effort through network development. This is a case study from Bali Reef Rehabilitation Network, and it's done by Mr. Martin Welly from the Marine Conservation Advisor from the Coral Triangle Center in Denpasar, Indonesia. So Martin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Puri, from EU Ocean Governance. And then also, hi, everybody. As mentioned, my name is Martin Welly as a Marine Conservation Advisor. And then today I would like to share with you CTC experiences on strengthening coral restoration efforts through network development. This is a case study from Bali Reef Rehabilitation Network together with partners. And this is peta map of the coral triangle area that maybe some of you already know. This is the region that has the highest marine biodiversity in the world. That consists of the 6 countries that's from Indonesia, Filipina, Malaysia, Timor-Leste, Papua New Guinea, and the Solomon Islands. So the CTC as Indonesian NGOs that working regionally support and focusing on marine conservation as well as the capacity building on that coral triangle area. And then we have vision healthy seas that enrich people and nature. And then CTC also has a mission to inspire and train generation to care for coastal and marine ecosystem. And our value is excellent local stewardship, collaboration, and result. And then we back to Bali Island as part of the Indonesia. Bali has a potential of the coral reef. The total area is about 8,837 hectares. And this is a habitat for fish and marine megafauna biodiversity. And Bali also has endemic species of the coral that's from species of Eupilia baliensis. Based on CTC survey in 2015 using the Mantatau methods, CTC tried to mapping the distribution of the coral reef in the Bali province. And unfortunately, Bali reef facing the threats from deforestation, from trash and plastic pollution, sand mining, a bit erosion, also mass marine tourism. And then Bali province government, together with NGOs and university, doing the effort to protecting the coral in the Bali province by design the Bali.
Hello?
Sorry.
Yes. I think
I will. Yeah.
Can I lost you, Martin.
Can I continue?
Please go ahead. We lost you for a second.
Yeah, thank you. This is, I'm continue. This is the Bali MPA network, consists of 12 locations that allocate as a Bali MPA network. And then also Bali province government, in terms of protecting the coral reef in Bali province, also stakeholders in Bali working together to do coral restorations. And then CTC in partnership with the Bali province government initiating to establish a Bali Reef Rehabilitation Network. This is in the beginning consists of 17 organizations, consists of the government, academics, community, tour operators, and NGOs. And the networks as a platform to share knowledge and experiences on the coral restorations. This networks are led by the Bali province government that's supported by NGOs and university. And this network also develop communication tools that using mailing list, also WhatsApp group and Facebook group to sharing information, publication, and also sometimes there is a problem on the coral reef in Bali, and then the members make a discussion and then how to respond and make solution on that problem. By 2021, the total of the member right now is the 21 members. And this network also work plan. This is to sharing knowledge and experience through online and also offline. The online is through webinar, social media, and then through the offline that by doing learning visits between the members, and also doing the capacity building through the trainings. And then this network trying to scaling up and connect it with the National Coral Reef Restoration Initiative. And then this network also develop a coral restoration task force and also have a members annual meeting. And then in August 2021, that CTC together with Bali province government and also Minister of Marine Affairs and Fisheries in national level, in this case is BPS, PL Denpasar, facilitating national webinar where the all Bali Reef Restoration members doing the presentation about their progress of the project on the coral restoration, and then the sharing the challenge, but also about the lesson learned from their coral restoration project. Different techniques on the coral restoration presented by the members from the biorocks, roti buaya, Mars, wisdom, and so on. And also this is the task force. Okay, this is okay. Thank you. This is the coral reef restoration task force that also help the groups that doing coral restoration around Bali. and then the task force giving the training also for the community groups like this. This is Tuan Sapula group from Nusa Penida MPA that support by task force and train, and they deploy their own coral restoration project with deployed 21 reef stars structure and about 300 coral fragments. I think that's all my presentation, and then thank you and give back to Puri.
Thanks a lot, Martin, also for very clear and precise presentation of 5 minutes. So let's move to our next presentation. This is about the restoration and creation of community MPAs in Pantagalan, and it was going to be done by Frédéric Cartier, the president of the Sulubay Environmental Foundation in Palawan, in the Philippines. Bonjour. The floor is yours.
Okay. Do you see me?
Yes, we see you.
Okay, I share my screen. It's okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just put in the full mode is possible, full screen.
Yeah, sure, immediately. Mm-hmm. Hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be there with you today. And I'm sorry for my bad English. Normally it's French, but I try to discuss with you in English. I'm Frank Tardieu, French guy, and I present to you my personal and my private engagement for the biodiversity. I created the Sulubay Environmental Foundation in 2012. It's a Philippine non-profit organization based on Pangatalan Island. The Sulubay objective is to accelerate the resilience of the natural resources. After having experienced our method for 5 years in our personal MPA, the result are really encouraging. We wanted to develop a large scale for the population who directly depend on the resource of the coral reef. The idea is to create small MPA near the village, and that its MPA be managed through the LGU and the fisher folk. The main objective of the project is to restore marine biodiversity and rebuild fish stock of the benefits for the local population. The Sea Academy is divided in 4 acts: preserve, ecosystem and creating 3 participatory marine protected areas, restore coral reef and fish population within MPA, sensitive and educate students and adults for a sustainable management of marine resources, and share the experience and replicate it. The Sea Academy, with the 3 community marine protected area and the Pangatalan MPA together, form a network for MPA with corridor for the traditional activity for the fishermen control by guard day and night. A social ecological scientific thesis is in charge to evaluate this effectiveness of MPA in the bay and the interaction with the local population. The idea is really to involve the population, because for me, it's just my opinion, the big MPA with no control, with no engagement with the population, the result is too long. We don't have time now. The objective is to engage all the population, and also in first is the poor population who they live in the small island. Why? Sorry, I have a problem. Oh, it's okay. The Sea Academy, the last, inside the new MPA, the participative MPA, I have the power to imagine many solutions. And the last test innovation technology will be combined in this project. The mapping and evolution of the reef habitat will be studied by the photogrammetry technique. The activity of this reef, the fish reef and the invertebrate, will be studied through the passive acoustic technology. And the biodiversity will be explored using environmental DNA. The Sea Academy project will use the SRP. SRP is a through reef processes, is my innovation. The SRP artificial reef to restore coral reef inside the new MPA. And the last slide is the repopulation of the fish population will be done according to the innovative method capture and culture of the post-larvae, the PCC, mastered by Ecocean. For this method, we have 10 years experience, and the result is incredible. The Sea Academy education program will be in place for school children, several internships with scientific mission for the university student, and train adult for the new job.
30 seconds.
Okay, the Sea Academy project will be promoted locally and abroad in order to raise awareness, inspire, and share knowledge and experience. The result, the expected result is there, but the most important is our goal is 2025 is to become the first bay with 10 small MPA managed by the community. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Frederic, for this beautiful experience. And now we have more examples of very nice work done on the ground. So we will move to a presentation that is rock pile as coral rehabilitation in Indonesia, a case study from Alor and East Nusa Tenggara province, and is done by Mr. Erdi Laswardi for WWF Indonesia Marine and Fisheries Program. Erdi, you're welcome. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Puri. All right.
Please put the full screen. Yeah, great.
Is it in full screen now?
Yes.
Right. Thank you. So, CTI Virtual Learning Exchange Committee, ladies and gentlemen, participants, thank you for this opportunity. My name is Erdi Laswardi from WWF Indonesia, of WWF Indonesia. So, I'm going to give a presentation about rock pile as a coral rehabilitation in Indonesia with a case study from Alor MPA in East Nusa Tenggara Province. And then, as an outline, it will cover a bit overview of coral rehabilitation in Indonesia, rock pile itself, and then our experience in Alor as sharing learning and opportunities to spread out the rock pile in other area. Coral rehabilitation in Indonesia has been starting at least since mid-90s to respond to coral reef degradation, especially from human activities. It also to recover coral reef condition as public awareness to care about coral reef and also tourism, fisheries, as well as research purposes. There are many methods that has been developed, at least divided into two, artificial reefs and also coral transplantation. As you can see some picture there, and also the combination between artificial reef and coral transplantation. Between of those methods, there are rock pile here. So, of course, every method has pros and cons, yeah. But although at some point may not sophisticated method, we are considering in simple method where can be adopted by communities, MPA management authorities, with low cost, low maintenance, and materials were relatively easy to get in the remote area and also can involve many people. So we choose rock pile. And early studies with good finding actually was implemented in Komodo National Park since 2000. So here, rock pile this is our MPA were established in 2015, and we have a rock pile in Kange Island were deployed in 2013, where some area damaged by bombing fishing. We have 3 blocks with size of 16 meters cubic each. And then since then, unfortunately, we have never monitored until we have a chance to visit Kangye in year 2018 and documented. So these pictures can show you the difference after 5 years from 2013 and 2018. Although we didn't do scientific monitoring, obviously after 5 years, rock pile in Kangye Island has been covered by hard coral, soft coral, sponges, and reefs associated as you see on the right picture. Then we have a chance to monitor in 2021 with finding as follows. As you can see, bentic substrate coverage as comparison between treatment and control. In treatment, there are 7% of hard coral, 33% of soft coral, where in control, there is no hard coral and soft coral. And in treatment, actually, there are 45% remain in rock pile, but actually they cover with coralline algae. And the reef fish associated and macrobenthos, also found more in the treatment area rather than in control area. Moreover, this spot in Kangye Island has become fishing for fishermen. So this is just some picture where also in good condition in 2021, more likely in 2018, after 8 years. As a result, this finding attracted MPA management authorities in Alor MPA to replicate in other area. The good news is the area selected in Buaya Island, where some fishermen are using bombing fishing practice. Thus, this rockpile initiative can be awareness also binds local fishermen to use friendly fishing gear, and also there are many eyes watching Buaya Island, so that fishermen will be kind of be ashamed to use bomb in Buaya Island. Yes. In addition, this in the soon future, we have opportunities to replicate rockpile in Rawan MBA as well, and also in Tun Mustafa Park in Malaysia with support from AU Ocean Government Project. So that's all from the sharing learning, especially from Alor and the replication opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let's move. There are still new presentations. So the next one is from outside the Coral Triangle. It comes from Senegal. And we have restoration experiences in community marine protected areas of Senegal. And the presentation is done by Colonel Mamadou Sidibé, the director of the community MPAs in Senegal. So, Colonel, bonjour.
Bonjour. Bonjour tout le monde. Merci beaucoup.
Good morning to everybody. Thank you very much. So I cannot really speak in English, so I'm going to speak French. Please, I apologize to the English speakers. So I'm going to present, I work for the direction of MPAs in Senegal, which started in 2012. But everything started in 2003. So Senegal committed to create MPAs, but since 1969, Senegal has had MPAs with the national park, and the first marine park was created in 1969. Today, if you look carefully, Senegal, if you look at Senegal, our mission was to create MPAs, but also to consolidate what was known, to carry out scientific research, to contribute to biodiversity, and also to support the populations. The other important aspect today is that we have 700 kilometers of coast. MPAs occupy 137 kilometers, in fact more or less 20% of the Senegalese coast. So there's a surface of more than 4,000. We're talking about MPAs. What was difficult was to have a certification of what we had. At the time, Senegal had difficulties in reconstitution of ecosystems at the coast level, but also marine. But from there, the configuration of MPAs is to work directly with the population, supporting those MPAs, and they automatically reconstitute marine ecosystems. And this is what we had to do from 2012 till today. Those are reforestation of surfaces. So we can move on. Go ahead. Move on. So if we go back to the restoration, marine restoration, what we did is identifying all the areas where we could put artificial reefs and in the protection of the coasts, we had to go for soft techniques which enable us to occupy that area and enable the populations to carry out their own activities. There you have plantations of phyllodes and also what is needed to plant those phyllodes. We can move on. As I said, we have a coastal zone based on nature, and those soft solutions are done to facilitate the resilience of the populations. And today the difficulty, real difficulties are faced, but the populations are really engaged with the marine community, and we use soft solutions. And that enables us today to work closely with the populations. That's all I wanted to contribute to. Thank you very much. Thank you. I was just going to tell you that you have 30 seconds left, just when you finish.
And let's move to the next presentation, which is various types of methods and the role of the community in coral restoration in Nusa Penida MPA. And it's done by Wira Sanjaya. Sorry if I don't pronounce properly. He's the Nusa Penida project leader in the Coral Triangle Center in Samur, Bali. Wira, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Puri. Oops. Okay, my check is that my presentation.
It's good.
Okay. So thank you, Puri, as moderator for this section. So good morning to colleagues there, and good afternoon for the colleagues here in Indonesia, I think. And I'm Sanjaya, based in Bali and working at Coral Triangle Center. So I will share about the various type of the methods and also the role of the community in coral restoration in Nusa Penida MPA. So for the first, I will give an overview about the Nusa Penida MPA. So Nusa Penida MPA is located in Indonesia. So precisely it's in the Bali Island, so in the southeast of Bali. And the Nusa Penida MPA, the area of the MPA is 20,000 hectare. So, and this is the challenge that facing the coral reef in Nusa Penida, including the marine debris, which occur almost every years. The marine debris and poses a threat to the coral reef in Nusa Penida. And the second one is the tourism development, and this is also the impact of the increasing tourist visit to Nusa Penida. Based on our data, is on 2018-2019 that more than 2,000 tourists visiting Nusa Penida in a day. So, and this one also create a complex impact to the Nusa Penida island. And then the irresponsible tourism, we still encounter this activity a lot in Nusa Penida. People writing their name on the coral reefs. And the next is the coral bleaching. So based on our data, 2015, 2017, that's the large scale of the coral bleaching in Nusa Penida. And from the fisheries also, we still often find a ghost net that damages coral reef in Nusa Penida. And yeah, this is for this section. This is the community participation in the coral restoration in Nusa Penida. So we at CTC collaborated with the community and also the private sector in this coral restoration in Nusa Penida. So we also do coordination with the Bali Coral Rehabilitation Network Task Force to do the collaboration on this program. And also in Nusa Penida, the coral restoration activity, we encourage the community as the leading sector and supported by us and also with the other partners. So yeah, and this is some of the methods that have been used in the rehabilitation activities in Nusa Penida. On the left side, that's the method using the iron or steel, and then the wire mesh with the purpose to stabilize the substrate in Nusa Penida, and also using rope where coral are tied on the rope, and also the rip star. So that's the difference between rip star and also with the steel, because the rip star using the coated steel in this method, and also there's several using the concrete block with the various shape and also the design. And yeah, this is some of the result for each method that already implemented in Nusa Penida. So in general, all methods working well with I think there's so many notes also. I think RD also already mentioned about there's many notes for every method that already implemented. So basically the use of the iron methods based on our observation in Nusa Penida can grow very well and quickly. So, and using the concrete block a little bit slower because mostly when we're using the concrete, most algae is growing first, so that's become a challenge also for the coral to growing on that media. So I think this is just a comparison about the result for the rip style. This is example our rip style on December 2020, and on the bottom there's the we do the monitoring on November 2021,
30 seconds, Wira.
Okay, thank you. So that's some of the result. And okay, this is the sum of our notes. So positive include the good quality of the water in Nusa Penida is a main factor for the success of the restoration activity. And also we need the method that low cost and also easy to implemented by the community, and increasing the support by the parties. Also the coral restoration become an education program for tourists, academics, researchers. And also the interesting in Nusa Penida is the coral restoration become the new tourist attraction in Nusa Penida. And here also some note challenge during the restoration, like the maintenance. We need the capacity building to the community, sustainable for the budget program with the community, and also conflict utilization with the area. And also the climate change, especially the bleaching event is still happen in Nusa Penida, so we need to restore more resistant species in this program. I think that's my quick presentation for this session. Thank you very much, Puri.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Very well. We're also on time. So I'm really thankful to all of you, because I know this is an effort. You have a lot of things to share. So now let's move to presentations that are from the scientific point of view, because we need a lot of research, we need monitoring, we need good science for good restoration. So the first of these presentations, it says rehabilitating the rehabilitation, applying the scientific knowledge to improve reef restoration practice in Indonesia. And it will be presented by Dr. Trais Razak from the IPB University, Faculty of Fisheries and Marine Sciences in Bogor, Indonesia. So Trais, the floor is yours.
Sorry. Yeah, share screen now, yeah?
Yes.
Hi everyone. Let me share this. Can you see my presentation now?
Yes, we can see. That's great.
Yes. Yeah. Hi everyone. My name is Trais Razak, and I'm a research fellow at IPB University. I've been working on different projects of reef rehabilitation. Few years, 14 years ago I started, and then the coming 3 years I will be doing a project on applying scientific knowledge to improve reef restoration practice in Indonesia. Of course, there are a lot of causes of destruction on reefs around Indonesia, but I would consider blast fishing is as one of the major problem. The problem is with blast fishing, it's very destructive. It destroyed the 3D structure of reef immediately. It caused unstable substrates, making it difficult for coral larvae to settle and grow the corals. It is when the active restoration using artificial reef or coral transplantation taking place to help the recovery faster. The problem is in Indonesia, many reef restoration program with artificial reef, they didn't use the right structure or the right components to make the artificial reef, or they are placed in a site that is not necessarily correct. As I can show you, this happened like in early 90s. They still use old tires, which is very toxic, and it's not favored by coral larvae to settle. On the other things also happen something like this, where concrete blocks is being dumped onto healthy corals. And this is the only studies I found in Indonesia that actually reviewing different projects by the government, looking at the situation of the artificial reef post installation. As you can see, the top one is only 1 year old, and it's in Sabang in Aceh. And as you can see, pyramid concretes have been disintegrated almost completely. The second line is again, corals being placed among healthy corals, which is very damaging when there's current, big wave. It can just move the artificial reef around and destroy more corals. And the last one, as you can see, many of the structures, after a few years, they're being buried completely in the sand and by the coral rubbles as well. Here are several projects in Indonesia, which include the long-term monitoring program. Also, another problem is a lot of reef restoration projects in Indonesia is only a one-off activity. They put the concretes and then that's it. There's no monitoring, there's no measuring the success. So these are 4 projects that among several others, only very few that include long-term monitoring. I've involved in 3 of these 4 projects. So this is the first one, just a few examples. This is rock piles, the one that similar to what Erdi explained before. And this is placed in Komodo National Park. The photo taken 5 years after the corals being placed on the water. And as you can see, there are 3 sites, Papagarang, Gililawa, and Padar. In Papagarang, 5 years, you can see all the corals beautifully grow on top of the rock piles. In Gililawa Darat, there's nothing happened as if it was thrown yesterday. And in Padar, the rock pile was gone and completely buried by the rubbles. The second example is reef balls. This belong to a mining company in Sumbawa. And Teluk, I have to repeat the one before. So there are 9 sites that we monitored, and the rate of success is between 5 to 82%. And this is second examples of reef balls in Sumbawa. This located on 2 different bays, only a few hundred meters away. But as you can see in Teluk Benete, the reef balls completely covered by healthy corals. But in Lawar Bay, nothing happened after 4 years. So based on those findings, we know that there's a lot and a great variation of success in reef restoration.
30 seconds.
We want to know what caused the variation. So in the next 3 years, I will be focusing my research on quantifying threshold for coral reef for the successful reef restoration, and doing large mapping of rubble fields so we know where to do reef restoration, and making special prioritization for reef restoration, and publishing the Indonesia Reef Restoration Best Practice Manual. And this is the initial result. We know that 40% of reef restoration in Indonesia is initiated by the government, and artificial reef with concrete is the most favored methods. I was hoping to take this further for like intergovernmental collaboration, international support, global knowledge exchange, and application of scientific findings, and consistent ecological monitoring and appraisal. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Razak. And I think this is, you really raised some points that are relevant. It is not only talking about the good side, but also the difficult aspects of monitoring and showing when things are not well done. So thanks a lot. And we have another presentation from the scientific point of view, which is a new approach of biomonitoring in restoration area at marine protected areas. So it is done by Dr. Beginner Subhan from the IBP University in Bogor, Indonesia. So Dr. Subhan, or Subhan, sorry.
Thank you, Puri. Is my voice clear?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. I will present our experience activity about new approach of biomonitoring restoration at in restoration area at MPA. Let me introduce myself. My name is Beginner Subhan. from IPB University. So this is our collaborator during our research now. And I show you the map of the marine protected area in Indonesia, and it's separated from the west to the east and north to the south, and then marine protected area now become important area for Indonesia, especially for supporting conservation and fisheries. And during my activity monitoring around Indonesia, I try to collect information about the restoration method. As mentioned by Dr. Tris, there's a lot of method, and this is I try to put spot for the restoration and for the several activities in Indonesia actually. And this is the my conclusion. The restoration area in Indonesia mostly in MPAs, and then same like Tris said that mostly also initiated by MPA governance and local governments. And then the problem is we need to make a standard for monitoring method, so we can compare the result of the restoration. And now we already conduct some research using environmental DNA for the biomonitoring, and then this is the benefit. So reduce the sampling time, finding the hidden and rare organism, and can monitor total biodiversity, estimating abundance, distribution, detect endangered and threatened protect species. And this is our activity about we already conduct marine biodiversity survey. We can detect invasive species and introduced species, and also for reef biomonitoring. So some area in MPAs is like near the international for the shipping, and we also can use the environmental DNA to detect invasive species. And this is our samples in environmental DNA. And this is I want to share our research in Sangyang Nature Park. We survey using comparing the environmental DNA and visual for the coral cover, for biodiversity and spawns. And this is the result. Environmental DNA can show the more species. It can detect more species than visual. This is and also this is for the fish. For the coral and soft corals. And also we do some coral recruitments, so we can detect what kind of the possibility for the coral recruits using the environmental DNA. And for the MPA manager rules, they still needed for the supervise the monitoring activities during the monitoring, and supervise the site selection. And this is future work. Investigate the future connection between population, extend collaboration in regional, and NPA should be considered the dynamic of marine organism. This is our collaborators. That's all my presentation. Thank you. Puri. Finish.
Great. So thank you very much also for being on time. So I'm very happy to share this session with all of you. It's a great group. And just our last but not least speaker, my colleague Feda, that will share what we are planning to do in terms of restoration under the EU ocean governance. So Feda, The floor is yours.
Thank you, Guri. I think I'm the one that very happy to listening all your presentation. Can you see my presentation now?
Yes, it's okay.
Yeah. So I think let's wrap up what all the presenters in the beginning until before me. So I'm lead on the implementation of the EU Ocean Governance project in the restoration activity. So this one from the 4 project component of EU Ocean Governance in Southeast Asia. In the component 1, we want to increase knowledge and practice of protecting and restoring marine and coastal ecosystem in 3 selected area of marine protected area in the Southeast Asian region. So to implementing the component 1, we have decided with the assistance from the EU Commission to select the Sulawesi marine ecoregion and as a area, the priority area. As we know, the Sulawesi marine ecoregion is one of the priority seascape in Coral Triangle, and this seascape have a comprehensive action plan where all the planning of the MPA network of the threatened species and all the intervention to conserve this area have been planned. And now we, as a part of following action to implement by supporting the MPA managers to restore on their ecosystem. There are 3 MPA have been selected in Derawan as part of Indonesia. We have a plan with the stakeholders in Derawan Island MPA and community to select the Maratua Island Reef as the area that we want to implementing the restoration. In the Malaysia, in Tun Mustafa Park, there are several sites of reef as a cluster of Maliangin, Bangi Patanunan, and Pitas Ralbar. And then for the Philippines, in the southern Balabac, in part of Palawan, work with the local authority and stakeholder. Mangrove and coral reef have been identified for the restoration. To select all these sites, there are some criteria we have identified. The biophysical and ecological condition, the social support from the stakeholder and community, and the economic feasibility to see the sustainability of the implementation of this restoration, because we don't want this as just one-off action like Dr. Tris Razak has mentioned. And for the anticipate the coming threat, that's the area that we have to identify carefully with the community and with the scientists that involved on the process of identify the site selection. And for mangrove restoration, we have identified several biophysical and ecological conditions here, and of course the social support from the community and stakeholder and the private sector too, who potentially can adopt and support on the implementation of restoration. Following what have been presented from other presenter, that's what we adopt for the methodology for coral reef restoration. There is one methodology, rock pile, that maybe Mr. RD have presented before. We adopt from their lesson learned in Kangi Island as one of long-term project for the restoration for the coral reef. And then the recent method that have been introduced in Malaysia, and we want to see Mars can be adopted as another method that can be implemented for the reef restoration. There is a cross-learning that will be built between these 3 sites or 3 MPA to have a lesson learned and cross learning between the MPA managers, stakeholder, and the coastal community who involved. It's a lesson learned from Bali, Nusa
30
Dua.
seconds, Feda.
And this mangrove restoration method that will be implemented. As we are implementing this project under the, not from the ecological or community development, but under the partnership commission. So the main stakeholder is the most important. We have to be involved from the beginning and the implementation of this restoration. There are several stakeholders in Indonesia, from the government, local government, community, the association of the operator, and community mission. And the same stakeholder from Malaysia, from those 5 parties, and this on the Philippines stakeholders. I think that's all from me, Puri. I would like to invite knowledge to support on the implementation of this project, because we will just start on the next month to implementing this restoration activity. Over.
Thanks a lot, Feda. And I think it was, as you said, very good to have your presentation at the end, because you could connect, you could show that we are connecting most of the knowledge that exists today on restoration into our current project. So I think that's fine. And now I will be very glad if some of our participants wish to make any comment, any question. I'm sure that also they have nice experiences on restoration or concerns. So is there any question? Please raise your hands. You have the button down in the reactions. And if there's not, I will just, I would like to stress that listening at all of you, there are several aspects that appear to be very relevant. Some are about scientific knowledge and good knowledge about what you want to restore and how to do it well and how to monitor and properly to have a really good then a good clear process of what happened there and apply later. So this is one step, but there's also another element, which is the methodologies. Here we could see different methodologies that work in different contexts for different kinds of ecosystems as well. The methodology is an important element to share experience. But for me, what I really saw here as crucial is the capacity of your institutions or yourself to involve people, the involvement of communities. I think this is fundamental, especially to raise the awareness about this important objective of restoring marine and coastal ecosystems. So I will ask if any of you as speakers would like to tell us if you found great difficulties or if it was an easy process to motivate and to have the community involved. So I think this is one of the key points. Is there any of you that wish to respond to this question?
Yeah, Puri.
Please, Martin.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to respond that a question based on my experiences. That in Bali, especially, the local community has a patient and then also eager to do the coral restoration activities. But in other side, they have lack of capacity, but also knowledge to do the coral restoration with standard and also based on the scientific input. So the chance of the success for the coral restoration bigger than before. And also, for example, like how important we do the site selections and also the appropriate of the techniques or the methods. And sometimes they are just what you call it, repeat and also just making the example by what they showing from others without a sufficient knowledge on the standard. That's why this is a need collaborations, networks that like universities or NGO with local community working together, so we can share knowledge and then train them sharing knowledge. But I do agree the local community in the front line when doing the coral restoration, and then we are as a facilitator and support the local community. That's my comment on how we can how important local community in coral restoration. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Is there any other contribution at this level on the community involvement? Yeah, Dr. Colonel Sidibe.
Merci. Effectivement, comme je l'ai dit, dans le cadre de l'expérience.
Thank you. As I said, under the Senegal experience, it is extremely important because the community is at the basis and at the end of everything. Even to identify the MPAs is important for the community. And when the community identifies an MPA and they want that, then from there, having a link through the community, for the local community with the ministry, is exactly when the marine areas come to supporters and community, and identifying the areas to reforest is also something which has to be done by the community, because the communities know exactly when it should be reforestation should take place and what sort of trees to replant. And whatever is being done is done with the community, because the community can see its interests through this conservation, because today the majority is in fact women, and women are important, and when the women lose their activities, they lose their substance, and this is why women are at the core of restoration. They participate, and today they collect the fruits, they harvest the fruit of that restoration, and they work and they sell and they have benefits, and this is why there's a strong involvement for the restoration of the mangrove and even of the marine areas, because everything is done with the community. That's what I wanted to add from the experience in Senegal. Merci.
The point of the gender dimension on all those processes, so which is very relevant for our community. So thank you very much. So I will give the last floor to Frédéric, also to comment on that, and then we will proceed to close. Frédéric?
Merci. I speak in French. It's better
thank you very much. I'm going to speak French because it's easier for me. The difficulty is, in our case, the difficulty was, as a foreigner, to wanting to explain to local populations that methods today have changed, and we had to go through our own creation of MPA and film the development of the repopulation and regrowth of the coral, and then go through advocacy processes in the villages. What is important is that when people see, it is much more eloquent to the population than words, and so we took them, we gave them the possibility to go and see what happens to a reef which has been rehabilitated, and that the fish come back, because the populations are not really interested in the rehabilitation of coral reefs. What they are interested in is in the resource, and the resource comes back when the site is protected and the coral being rehabilitated. That's very easy.
Great words, it's about facts that are visible, especially at the level of people that have not any specific training on this kind of things. So I think you raise a very important point. So unfortunately, we are at the end of our session, but I think it was very rich. And what is important for us at the Ocean Governance Project is just to really confirm that the topic of restoration is really, really relevant at the Coral Triangle area, and I'm sure at all the Southeast Asia area. So this is just the first event we organize, but be sure that along the time we will be implementing what my colleague Feder presented today, which are these 3 restoration projects in different MPAs in Indonesia, in Malaysia, and in the Philippines. We will be organizing more exchanges and more opportunities to share the progress of our restoration work, but also to learn from all your experiences. So I think this is a very just nice moment for us to celebrate that we share this common understanding of the need to restore our ecosystems, the need to do it with the local populations, the need to show clearly to the society the benefits of restoration, but also the need to connect the value of those ecosystems and the value of our restoration work with other aspects that are relevant for the understanding of the society, such, for instance, the contribution to mitigate and to really adapt to climate change. So I think all of this has been raised today very quickly. Unfortunately, each of the proposals could have taken the whole event as something to go deeper and to analyze and to make proposals. But as I say, this is just the first event of the Ocean Governance Project here. And I really thank all of the speakers, and I thank as well all of you that are in the public listening and following this interesting session. So thank you very much, and just don't go back home, just stay half an hour, and we will continue with our last session about transboundary agreements as a nice framework to really promote all these activities. Thanks, and see you in a while. Thank you.